Hi, my name is Lou. You might know me as at neurodivergent_Lou on Instagram. It's so nice to be here celebrating Neurodiversity Pride. I feel like it's such an important thing to celebrate, as often like the days around like autism awareness, for example, they can uplift like neurotypical voices and aim to teach neurotypical people about autism. But I feel like Autistic Pride Day and Neurodiversity Pride as a whole can be a really great way to uplift autistic and other neurodivergent voices on issues that matter to us, and tell our own stories. So yeah, I'm so grateful to be here. So I guess a little bit about me. I'm 20 years old and I'm currently studying for a degree in education, which is really exciting because I can use like my lived experiences of being an autistic person to kind of make changes in the education field. I also have my Instagram account where I guess it started off as like a place where I kind of documented my journey to growing up in a neurotypical world, or that's how I explain it. I also make some infographic posts to kind of empower, connect other autistic people, and I guess share things that I wish I'd known when I was like going through the diagnosis process or even before that about autism, because I feel like a lot of the information on autism is like by neurotypical people for neurotypical people. So I guess it's kind of like taking back the narrative and sharing information for autistic people. I guess so. I'm talking about employment, and I will be covering things like my own experiences of employment as an autistic person, the strengths autistic people can bring to the workplace, like the struggles that we might have, what adjustments we can get, like the different ways that you can approach like the workplace, and like disclosing your that you're neurodivergent. So yeah, I guess to start with my experiences a little bit, I first started working when I was around 16 years old, as a waitress at a cafe. I think initially I was really excited about the whole idea. I saw lots of my friends working and like the good experiences they were having, and I really wanted to have that opportunity. I think, however, as I started, I realised that it was, I guess, going to be a little bit more difficult than what I'd initially thought. I remember struggling with things like remembering how you do certain tasks, as a waitress. Like that is really important. I struggle with memory, so remembering lots of information and processing instructions quickly are things I struggle with. And I think lots of other autistic people will relate in that sense. So I think that was quite difficult for me. I also struggled with sensory issues, so that would be around like the level of noise. So as you can imagine, in a cafe there's like lots of movement of glasses and people chatting, and like yeah, like the different sounds of like the oven and the electrical equipment, lots of different noises. So the different layers of noise were really difficult, and as an autistic person, those noises were amplified for me, so it was very difficult to concentrate. I also found like the unspoken rules of the workplace quite hard. So like there's like rules around what you're supposed to ask people, like so for example, and like how to answer questions. So like if someone says how are you, like I think the typical response, though I haven't quite figured it out yet, is to say I'm good, thank you, how are you. And it's like taken a bit weirdly if you don't like necessarily follow that script. So, and also like the whole idea around making coffee for everyone in the workplace, I think that's another unspoken social rule. So yeah, I did end up leaving that job because I found that like the amount of energy I was using up was so hard, because I spent a lot of time like masking at my struggles. I didn't necessarily feel like I could ask for help or like ask for adjustments. I think that made it more difficult for me. I guess one thing that I did struggle with as well is like feeling guilty about that and like feeling like it was my fault. But I guess that the more I understand about it, the more I can recognise how an employer also has the responsibility to support you as an autistic person and help you make adjustments and make sure the role is working for you. It's not all just down to you. So yeah, bear that in mind and don't be too harsh on yourself. So in terms of like my role now, I've luckily got a much better experience at the moment. I'm currently working for a charity, and I find the role really good because I can work at home. So that's really good. Like, it avoids the overwhelm and like the sensory overload. It's also something I'm really passionate about, so I can use my special, like, it's my part of my special interest, so I can use that information to kind of thrive. And yeah, it's really fun for me as well, like, and really interesting, so that really helps. And I guess that can be like the benefit of hiring autistic people, like, is that we do bring a unique skill set, which I'm going to talk a bit more about later, but it is, yeah, really brilliant for autistic people to be able to use their special interests. I also find with my current job role, they are very like inclusive in terms of making adjustments, like sometimes without me even having to ask for them. So for example, they provide information in like a audio file like format, as well as just written information, and like giving clear instructions and multiple reminders if I need them, so like to help support me with like executive functioning as well. I also think attitudes are really important, and like the attitudes of a workplace, like if they have an inclusive mindset, that can be really helpful in ensuring that you get the support you need, and that it's a positive place to work. So I feel like yeah, so some kind of tips from me on like interviews and things, and like finding a job initially. I feel like that will be a good place to start. I think that it can be really helpful to like plan things in advance. So yeah, like thinking in advance about what kind of job would work for you. Like, do you want something working from home? Is there a way you can incorporate like a special interest into a certain job role? Does the company you're applying for, is it known for being inclusive? Can you find other people's opinions of it online or people you know? Researching things like that can be really helpful. And also, like, when you go for an interview, like, it can be good to think about things in advance. So I always like look up on Google Maps, like what the place looks like, so I can get like an idea, and I have that kind of structure in my brain, and like it reduces the unknown factors. I also like do a lot of interview preparation because of my anxiety and being autistic. I do struggle in interviews, so having lots of practice. I also look on websites like Glassdoor, which has like interview questions for that company, so it helps me with my like practice. And yeah, I think some people will also choose to disclose that they're autistic or neurodivergent before the interview, and that can also be really helpful in kind of getting adjustments made. I think that for me, for example, in the past, it's helped me, like, they have given me the questions in advance for an interview, or they have like let me know in advance, like let me come in advance to have a look at the place or where I'll be having an interview, and things like that can be really helpful if you like struggle with anxiety. It can also help an employer kind of support you during the interview, perhaps giving you more time on certain questions or prompting you if you've like missed out something that they're looking for. I feel like interviews can be quite hard for autistic people because sometimes we might be quite literal in our thinking, and that can mean that we miss out on what they're kind of trying to ask. It's also like a new person who's going to be interviewing you, so it kind of gives you that anxiety around like new people. So yeah, it can be quite a daunting process. When I'm having an interview, I try and bear in mind, like, as I'm speaking, is this helpful for me getting the job? Like, is what I'm saying helpful for that? And that kind of helps to keep me focused, I guess, on what I'm saying, and try and kind of show myself in my best light, because I do struggle with that sometimes, like knowing, I guess, how to present myself. I also realised that when you're going. Like when you're talking to an interviewer at the start, they do like to make small talk around like the weather, the traffic, and that sometimes confused me a little bit, because I was like, what's this got to do with the job? But like that's something to bear in mind. They do try and make small talk, and it's not necessarily to do with the job, but they're just trying to break the ice and make you feel less nervous, I guess. So yeah, like the weather, the traffic, those can be good things to talk about if you're not sure, like during the process where you're walking with the interviewer, or like at the start of the interview. In terms of like the strengths autistic people can bring to a role, like I think there are so many. I guess seeing the world differently, that's an amazing like strength, because I guess sometimes you might have a company or culture where everyone kind of thinks in a similar way, and like having a neurodivergent person can really help. Some of us also have skills around like logic and being able to see things in a way that's logical, or creativity, so we might have a certain skill in being creative, and that kind of fits with thinking outside of the box. We might also like be able to bring our special interests, so autistic people sometimes have like lots of detailed, interesting knowledge around a certain subject that we can really utilise and really kind of help propel your like the organisation or company or business forward. I also think autistic people have quite a strong like attention to detail, in terms of like being able to see the small details in something before then seeing the bigger picture, which non-autistic people sometimes struggle with. I also think that autistic people can have like a strong sense of justice or fairness due to like our own experiences or struggles, and those can be really like a really important skill in the workplace. So yeah, there are so many different things that autistic people can bring, and I think it's so important that we harness these skills and also see that autistic people, like other people, deserve to have a place in the workplace. I think that's an important perspective not to lose too. In terms of like adjustments in a workplace, like, so there are lots of different adjustments that you can ask for. So like once you've disclosed that you're autistic or neurodivergent, so you can ask for things like wearing headphones or like noise cancelling headphones while you're working to kind of like reduce the background noise. You could ask for having like an office space in a quieter location of the building. Having instructions in written form, so that can be really helpful for those of us that struggle with like processing information. It can also be helpful to like ask for a timetable, or to be asked to like be let known in advance if there are going to be any changes, if that's the kind of thing that you struggle with. You might also want a mentor, someone who can like show you and support you at work, and like kind of help you to like understand things if they're confusing to you, or you know, let you know if there's any like unspoken social rule that you're supposed to know. Yeah, so I think that although it can be hard to ask for these adjustments, they can make a big difference. And I guess like there are lots of different ways that you could ask for them. Like you could ask for them in person or in writing. Like some people prefer to ask for them in writing because it means that there's a written record. But yeah, like I think autistic people are currently really underemployed in like employment, so I think it's so important that there is more awareness and understanding of the support autistic people can get, and like the different things that employers can do to support autistic people. I'd also love to see more autistic voices on like the experiences of employment as well. Like I think that's an important perspective. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to me today. It's so brilliant, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.